Good evening and welcome to another episode of What's So Funny, a show that probes the minds, the brains, and the psyches of the people who make the funny. The tryptophan is kicking in, folks. I know it's not Thanksgiving proper, but it is Thanksgiving weekend. Had a big turkey dinner. Oh, we have an alarm going off in the studio. But I got to tell you about the show. Let's get that out of the way first. Tonight, it's my old pal, Michael Gelbart. Okay, we met the night before recording this when he was headlining Yuck Yucks in Vancouver a few weeks ago, but he's such a garrulous and agreeable chap. I feel like I've known him forever. He's just one of those guys who can't help but be damn entertaining no matter what. If you don't know Michael Gelbart, he's a Toronto comic who's been living in LA for a while now, and he's also the author of the novel, The Other Oprahs. And I thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Hope you do too. Why don't we listen to it? Sounds like a plan. I've got it queued up and all. Here we go.
Whenever you get a chance in life to put headphones on, you should.
You should.
Yeah, I think so.
Because it makes you sound.
You feel like you're doing something, you know?
Right, we're not just sitting here talking.
Yeah, if you're doing a radio interview or a podcast or anything and the guy offers you the chance to put headphones on, it just is more fun. Like you think you're part of something. Michael
Gelbart.
Hello, podcast lovers!
We just met last night. I saw you perform last year. Yes. And of course, people know you from your time on Speaker's Corner in Toronto.
Do they know me from that?
No, absolutely not. But I saw it on your website.
Yeah, I can explain that.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah. I was shambling down the street in like 2006 or so, and a friend of mine said, "Hey, there's Speaker's Corner." And I said, "I always wanted to be on Speaker's Corner." So I went in there and
Who books it?
Yeah. So I decided, I was walking by and I said, I've always wanted to do that. So I want to do my impression of the average person you see on Speaker's Corner. So I just ad-libbed something for a good 2 minutes. And then my friend called me up a few days later and said, "Hey, they put you on the show and you have to call in for your prize because you were like the best one of the week or something." So there was a $300 gift certificate for the City TV store where I went and to this day, I still have all the clothes, to this day, like it's a million years ago, but like 6 years ago, and I have all this clothes all these things that I got from winning.
Like what? T-shirts?
I got T-shirts and hoodies and, well, that's it really, T-shirts and hoodies.
$300. Was it the best of the week?
Yeah, I was the best, in their opinion. Someone else might be better. It was not a hotly contested thing, but it was, the best of the week. And then apparently I was on the year-end, the wrap-up best of the year show. You don't get a prize for being on one of the best of the year. But I got $300. Guy's coughing right now. None of this will make it to air. This doesn't seem right. The Speaker's Corner story was gonna make it, and Guy coughing will not make it.
Nope, you will not have heard that. I also found out, Michael, that you were on Open Mic with Mike Bullard. Yeah, I'm going back in time, but you know what? I watched that show. I liked that show. I don't know your opinions on it, but I liked it. And then watching you on it, I realized that, yeah, I did remember you.
That's excellent. I did it either 5 or 6 times. And they gave me a lot of leeway. Originally, I started stand-up at 17, and when you start at 17, you're really not that good. And you're full of arrogance to overcompensate for the fact that you're not good. And so I was an arrogant person who wasn't good at the thing. So that's not...
Nothing to be arrogant about.
Yeah, you're not going to make a lot of chums when that happens. So it took a few years for people to come around. So when when Open Mic with Mike Bullard started, the guy who was choosing comedians remembered me from that period of time and was like, "He's a kid who's not that good." And someone explained to him at the show, "No, in the past few years he's really developed, so you should have him on the show." So I did my first 5-minute set on that show. It was Tom Green was the first guest. Mark Farrell, who has gone on to be a big TV producer. Yeah. He was the second guest, and I was the third, so it was a real comedy night. And I think the band Lighthouse was on that night, but I don't remember.
Awesome.
And it was a pretty, it was cool. It was my first talk show appearance, and I did very well on the show, apparently. So then they started really trusting me over there, so they'd have me on, and I wouldn't have to tell anyone what I was going to do on the show. They trusted that I was going to be effective on television, and I was writing jokes that I'd never tried in a club just for my 5 minutes. I'd go, this joke will probably work, so I'd throw it in the 5 minutes. I do new stuff on television, right?
Yeah.
Then when I did... So I got really comfortable with people trusting me. So then when I did Ferguson, and they're like, okay, you have to write out word for word every single word that you're going to say on our show, and we have to clear everything with legal, and you can't say this and you can't say that, and they make sure you stick very, very strictly to everything that was written.
Did everything make it, or did they say, no, you can't use this?
I think there was one joke that required me to say the name of a product, and there was a conflict with another product that advertised on CBS. So there was one thing that didn't make it for that reason. But but they look at your act with a fine-tooth comb over on American network television, or maybe they don't with Seinfeld or something, but I'm at a point still where they would look at everything that you're going to say. But
Mike Bullard,
I was ad-libbing on the show.
And you were doing jokes about masturbating to Special Olympic kids on Baywatch, which you probably couldn't say on American network television.
I think I could say that joke on American network television.
You think you could?
At 12:30 at night. Well, basically, I'm going to do the joke because it's so out of context, right?
Yeah.
I barely do this.
Wrong idea.
I barely do this joke, but how does it go? Oh yeah, it goes like this. It goes. There are television shows that are designed only for people to masturbate to. The only reason the show exists is masturbation. Like Baywatch, for example. I was watching Baywatch once, and just my luck, I got the episode where the Baywatch gang hosted the Special Olympics. It took forever. I had to wait for a bra commercial. That's the whole joke, right?
Yeah.
It's much better in front of an audience, and
it took forever. That's the killer line right there.
Yeah, that's.
But then the payoff is that you weren't. It wasn't because you were masturbating to the kids in Special Olympics. It was the bra commercial.
Yeah. It was. Well,
not to overanalyze a joke or anything.
Yeah, it's not a new joke. It's one I rarely do. But I guess the comedy comes from the fact that the person in my act or this is watching a show that was specifically designed for male gratification, and then they do an episode that tackles an issue, and it does not work with the other point of their show.
Right.
Yeah. So you're watching it going, I wish that mentally challenged kid or that physically challenged kid would move out of the way right now, so I could look at the beautiful ladies.
Yeah.
So.
But do you really think that you could say that on an American talk show?
I think at 12:30 when the comedian comes on at almost 1:30 in the morning, I think a lot of that can be said. I think there might be some changing of it. I don't know.
Okay, will you try next time?
No, I'm not in love with the joke, and
it's a good joke.
It's a decent joke. I was happy I wrote it at the time, and I would not try it now. No, I mean that Bullard appearance was very early in my career, and the TV show itself, Baywatch, has been off the air for a ridiculously amount of time.
You'd have to update it.
Yeah, it's not an important enough thing to me to even try.
Not even to see if it could get through.
No,
just so you could report back
if it gets through, I got to do it, right?
No, and say I've changed my mind.
Yeah, I could say I changed my mind, but I don't necessarily. It's just not important to me at this point, But
I'll ask Eddie Brill to watch it and see if it could get through. Maybe that's what I have to do.
Maybe there was a point. There was something I thought of while I was telling that story, and I don't remember what it was.
It'll come to you.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not thrilled with the aging process at all.
Who is?
I don't know.
It's disappointing.
I get if your thing is that you're old, like if you're always known as the old guy and your whole act is about being old, and hey, it's the old guy.
Then you got a gimmick anyway.
Yeah, and then you want to be, oh, God, I hope I get older, so I'll even kill harder being the old guy.
Well, what's your thing? Is it being the loosey-goosey, fun young guy?
Well, I can be the loosey-goosey fun guy, but I can't be the loosey-goosey fun young guy because every year you are getting closer to not being young.
Right. But the loosey-goosey doesn't really jibe with an older guy. But you still look young. He's nodding. He's nodding pensively.
I don't know what young or old is, you know. Some people say this.
That is deep.
Some people go, you're only as old as you feel, right? And I don't think that's true at all. I think that that's a nice expression. But no matter how you feel an attitude, internally, things are decaying, regardless of how you're, well, I feel so young,
Yeah.
And then it's like, no, I like how you feel mentally, and I admire that, but at the same time, those people are, there is a decay going on internally that they are going to pass away regardless of...
You think about this a lot?
No, but I'm trying to write a bit about it, but I'm struggling with the verbiage of it.
I saw you last night, and you said after the show that you were a little laid back.
I was more laid back than usual, even. Like, I really do like to keep... I like the audience not knowing sometimes what's prepared material and what's not, because I want it to sound so conversational. Mm-hmm. Sometimes you get in trouble for that, though, because a person will start talking during one of your bits because they think you're just talking to them. And so that can get weird sometimes. It didn't happen yesterday, but when you have a very conversational sounding act, there is always the chance that someone will go right in the middle of a joke, will go, hey, that happened to me. And I sometimes have to explain to the audience, no, this is not the crowd work part. These are prepared jokes.
Yeah, you're good at going in between those two. Like, you comment on the process as you go along.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah. I think it's a fun thing for me to do. I like that.
It looks like you have a lot of fun on stage.
I like to try and keep it almost Penn and Teller-like, where they reveal their tricks. And I sort of sometimes like to reveal some of what's behind the curtain of stand-up in terms of what's prepared and what's ad-libbed.
I saw Penn and Teller on Arsenio Hall last night.
The new Arsenio show?
The new Arsenio.
I guess that started.
It was his 4th episode.
I haven't seen the new one yet. As a kid, it was a huge show. So.
Yeah, and it looks exactly the same. He looks exactly the same. He does the exact same things, the way he begins the show, the way he stands, the way he points, all his catchphrases. They're all the same.
No way he's doing
the set looks the same.
I thought he would do a whole new thing to acknowledge the advancing of time. I thought that was a show of its era, know? And I'll have to check it out.
Well, he doesn't have the big shoulder pads.
Yeah.
Or the flat top. But other than that, it's the same. And internally, he's decaying.
Yeah.
Right? He can pretend all he wants.
I know.
But internally.
But we don't know that he's really trying to pretend anything,
He's decaying. Yeah, that's true. I don't know what he's trying to do. But did you like the show as a kid?
I don't know how I felt about it. There was a lot of things about it. When it was on, I don't know how old I was, in my early teens maybe. And at that time, you can't like stuff because you're not cool. So I'm sure I used to put the show down or mock it all the time. But now, as a grown man, seeing him come back and do something like this, I admire it. A lot of the things I used to put down, I think are cool about people now. The fact that you're still out there making things happen, because it's really hard to make anything happen.
But that you sound like a peer now, right? Professional, because you put out good thoughts into the universe and they come back, and you're happy for him that he has this success.
Yes, it's really hard to, I realize now, having worked in TV and film, how hard it is to make anything, like to get anything from meeting stage to act, like having a meeting with someone for the first time, to actually get something on television is shockingly difficult. And then to have it be the thing you wanted it to be and look like you wanted it to be is way harder than that. Like, even after all the struggling you have to do to get where you want to be, when you make the thing, it's still, you're going to walk away from it going, this isn't exactly what I thought it was. And then there'll be things you love about it and things you don't. But it's not going to look like the idea you had in your head.
You live down in Los Angeles now.
Most of the time. Yeah, I come back to Canada quite often, but
so you've had these meetings
down
there.
Yes, yeah.
What does it take? Is it a lot of right timing, luck, as well as having a solid product to push?
I think one of the things it takes is you have to have a thing that people want during a time that people want that thing. Like, if many of the comedians that had sitcoms, let's say, in the early 90s, would have to look for some other way to break through today. Back in the early 90s, sitcoms were greenlit all the time with a guy in his late 30s, either a single guy in his late 30s or a guy with his family in his late 30s. But they're not doing that at all now. Nobody in their late 30s is the star of the sitcom currently.
Because that's old.
That's not the thing. Well, maybe it's not old in age, but it's just not the business model. But
that's their thinking.
I think one of the business model is, if something got big, then we'll make 80 of that. And someone's show broke through in the late 80s, and they were 30-something, so we'll do all of those. Right now, almost every half-hour show stars a woman, early 30s, late 20s, quirky woman, and it's about her and her pals. And that and I don't know why that is, but that seems to be the shows that are getting on air now. New Girl or Whitney for 2 years, or there's a bunch of them. They're either getting greenlit or but most of the shows starring comedians right now are women in their early 30s or late 20s.
And as a guy who's trying to pitch things, do you look at the zeitgeist and try to develop something around a late 20s, early 30s woman? Or do you just keep doing what you envision and hope that somebody picks that up?
If I had an idea where I could honestly say was great and I really felt good about the idea for that, I would pitch something like that. But I haven't been writing in that. I haven't been writing for that audience. I mean, my novel does, one of the 4 female leads in the novel I wrote, The Other Oprahs, is a woman in her late 20s, early 30s. And that I finished writing the book before this became a thing culturally. But it's constantly changing anyway. If you said, okay, I'm going to be the guy who pitches stuff for women in their early 30s, and by the time you get those meetings, that ship is sailed, it's over, it's gone, and now you're grasping at straws, trying to, what's next? What's the next thing? So it's best to like write things that you believe in and like, because it's going to be ridiculously hard to get them made anyway. So you might as well at least like them, and don't continuously struggle to figure out what the next thing is. Mm-hmm. Try and make the best things you can.
And we're going to talk more about your novel in a little bit. My wife started reading it last night. She said it's funny.
How far did she get?
I don't know.
That's always a
She
question.
went to bed. Oh. It's her birthday today, so I go, hey, I got a book for you.
Happy birthday, Mrs. McPherson.
No, she doesn't have my last name.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Anderson. I'm going to guess until I get it.
Keep going alphabetically. Yeah. Back to Bullard for a second. A show that I liked and a lot of people hated. I don't know your opinion on it. You don't have to say.
I will say.
Okay.
Mike Bullard got in on the ground floor of something. The Comedy Network was about to start. And he was an excellent guy at crowd work.
He was, yeah.
Excellent. Oh my God, it was the greatest. And
Still is.
He was one of the first guys I saw when I started doing comedy, or before I started doing it. He was already a great MC. So a lot of people put that show down, but the truth is he managed to be the guy who got it. He's the guy who he made his comics episode or his Comedy Now, whatever the thing was, he made it basically a pilot for the show to show what he would be like as a talk show host. Now, I'm sure maybe he wasn't a professional interviewer, but there's probably, if you edited together footage of that show, there's probably hours of great stuff.
There is.
Yes.
Yeah. And what's really tragic is that they won't release it. Now, because he did it for CTV and then he moved to Global, is that right?
Yes.
So CTV wasn't happy with that. Mm-hmm. And so they've held on to all those episodes and they won't release them. Because I said, everyone has a DVD out. You're a show on for one season and there's a DVD of all those episodes. He could put together all the best of...
Now, how do you know they won't? Did you contact with someone over there to see?
No, he told me that, but I don't know if they wouldn't. That's a good point. I didn't contact them. I just went by what he said.
Yeah.
But he agreed that it would be great to be released. And so it was really nice on your website that there were a couple clips of his show. And I used to record them on VHS. When I saw a comic on there I liked or something.
Getting to do panel on that show, that's for the listeners that don't know, but probably everyone does. Getting to do panel means you get to do your act from sitting down as if it's a conversation, and you also get to ad-lib things. And that was the first show I ever got to do panel on, and it takes a ridiculous amount of time in the U.S. to get to the point where you're getting to sit in the chair. So I was grateful and happy to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was fun.
Yeah. And when you talked about the producers who saw you when you were 17 and said, nah, this guy's no good, it made me think, a conversation I had with Jen Grant last night, who emceed for you this weekend.
Yes.
And first impressions can be deadly and unfair.
Yes. Oh, absolutely.
Because we see somebody, I said I don't go out to as many nightly shows in Vancouver anymore. I pick my spots. I used to go out all the time. And I said it's probably a little more fair now because I'm not going to see someone right at the beginning. I'll see them as they have developed a bit more.
Absolutely. And if people saw me from, let's say, the ages of 17 through 21, they would have probably heard someone who was very hit and miss on stage, had no voice, no comedic voice, and was off stage thinking he was the coolest, I was a young kid living with his parents who'd bring cute high school girls down to the show. There was older comics kind of resented that, and I didn't have the comedic tools to back up any arrogance either, which most kids don't.
Now, you were in Montreal, right?
No, I started doing stand-up in Toronto. I was born and raised in Montreal, but I didn't do stand-up there.
But you were living with your parents in Toronto?
Yeah, until I moved out when I was like 23.
So you were raised in Montreal, and then the whole family moved
The
to
whole
Toronto.
family moved.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, before I started doing stand-up.
So who were you starting out with? Who were those guys who were resenting you or who
No,
came up
I
at the same
remember there
time?
were some 35-year-old types. Like when you get off amateur night and you're doing just the regular nights, which I was only 18 when that happened. And there were some 30-something comedians. I'd be wearing shorts because it was the summertime, and I'd come over and like try and be all buddy-buddy with them. And one guy said, "Hey, until you're old enough to wear long pants, don't hang out with us," or something like that.
Is that Mike Wilmot?
No, Wilmot was actually awesome to me.
Sort of sounded like him.
Oh, I was doing my, that was just a generic grizzled, although 35 is a little young for grizzled, but it's just a generic 35-year-old kind of bitter sounding guy.
Right.
But the thing, I would never name names, but the guys who were not particularly nice didn't go on to do anything, and anyone who was genuinely positive and supportive, some of them went on to some really big success. Like when I was 17, Harlan Williams was already a headliner and significantly older than me, but he was great to me. And he said when I had a joke, like he'd see me do regular nights and he'd be headlining the club and he'd say great things. Yeah, and he's done really well.
And what did you learn from this? What did you take away?
I learned that anyone who, you don't think when you're 17, 18 years old and a 30-something-year-old is being a dick to you, you just go home sad. You're like, oh, nobody likes me at the club, You don't think about the psychology of being a grown-up picking on a kid. Like what what kind of weak human being would do that, right? And everyone who was really positive was doing their own things. They would wake up in the morning kind of maybe happy in their own skin. I'm sure they had rough days, but they were focusing on them, not on being threatened by the fact that there was a kid who was popular with other 17-year-old girls, and they didn't like that. They were focusing on the fact that they had their, they'd get up and write something, or they were working on their own craft.
Yeah.
I hate the word craft. And then, so when I got a little older and there were younger comedians, I remember this one guy, I'm never going to name any names, but this one guy, and he was funny. He was a funny guy, and he was doing great, and he finally got his first shows on a Saturday night. And so someone killed right before the younger comedians. Someone destroyed, and the MC went back on. And this has happened to me 4 times in my life, so I knew what it felt like. The MC went back on, and during the applause for the last guy, while people were still like turning to, hey, oh my God, that guy was so amazing, that stuff. So the people are going nuts. He's like, that was Bob Johnson, everyone. Please welcome to the stage, the guy. So the audience doesn't even know a new guy has gotten on stage yet, because he's being brought up to the thunder of the last person's applause. So it takes a good 2-3 minutes for the audience to really adjust. So this guy bombs.
I thought that would be a good thing.
No,
because they're bringing him up, and the crowd is still happy and laughing.
Sometimes you hear after someone kills and people have turned to their girlfriend or wife or each other and, oh my God, wasn't that guy funny? Oh my God, I can't believe we just saw that guy. If the first time they turn their head again to the stage, a new person is on. I think if someone kills, you wait for the applause from that last guy to stop. Are you ready for your next act? Then you get applause for that, and then you bring the guy on. It still counts as you riding the wave of that. But it's different when you're bringing him on when the crowd is all turning to each other about how amazing someone was, because the first time they look at the stage again, it's a new guy. That's not the same.
Was that just incompetence, or was that...
On the MC's part, I think.
A conscious decision to screw with somebody.
It was definitely, I think it was neither. I don't think there was any vindictiveness. I just think the MC was like, I got to bring on 4 guys tonight, and sometimes I'm going to do some time in between, sometimes I'm not. And I'm not even suggesting he do time in between. I'm suggesting 15 seconds would be all the difference in the world to get the audience aware that someone new was coming on.
Yeah, and I also...
But after the set, the guy was you could tell he was confused about how badly he did, kind of choked up, maybe on the verge of tears. And I explained why that happened. Because it was his first Saturday night ever, and he was used to killing. So I explained, there wasn't even a pause between you and the last guy. The audience wasn't aware of you for 2 or 3 minutes. And that's why that did not turn out to be a good set.
So now, as a veteran comic yourself, you're kind to the young comics? You've learned this?
Yes, and right? Even if one's a douchey kid, I still don't, slam him or anything like that.
You chalk it up to his age.
I chalk it up to his age. I don't think most people under the age of 30 have not really formed what their character is going to be.
Their on-stage character.
No, their character is a human being. If you murder someone or something, or do something completely unforgivable by society, and that would be one thing. But if you act like a bit of a dick, or if you haven't really figured out how to be a good girlfriend or boyfriend or any of that stuff before 30, I chalk that up to youth.
When you said that the older, bitter comics never really went anywhere in their careers, and the nice guys did, and I asked you if you took anything away from that. Just on driving here to the club we're recording inside Yuck Yucks, I got the impression you're a really positive guy. Just looking for parking. This is going to be no problem.
Yeah.
But you can't manipulate it like that.
No, that's true, because parking
Although
was...
you were right, parking was no problem.
Yeah, you see, and it's not because I put that on the universe. If you're if you walk around completely negatively, going nothing good's gonna happen, some good stuff is still gonna happen. But then, before it did happen, you were in a headspace that was really, really negative. There was no point because good things were gonna happen anyway, and some terrible things are gonna happen too. Like it just seems to me that being negative is a really big waste of your time on Earth.
Right, because if something good happens, you've wasted all the time leading up to that in a bad space.
Yeah, you created this fictional thing in your mind. You had an emotional crisis because of it, and then the good thing happened. And I said to someone recently, we had gone somewhere, and then they had a meeting to get to, and then there was traffic. And before we even got out, he's like, "I'm not going to make it. I'm not going to make it in time." And I go, "Do me a favor and do yourself a favor. Don't freak out during the drive about how you're not going to make it, because if you do make it, you will have wasted that time." So we got in the car. Then they started freaking out. They went all mental about it. They called the person. They're like, "I'm on Rome right now. It's $1 to call them. I'm never going to make it in time." And then they made it on time. And it was exactly as I described. And then it was like, "You made it on time. There's no point. There's no point." I'm not articulating this well at all.
No, you are. And it is something I've told my son who worries about things. I say, there's no point in worrying about it. Because if it happens, well, it happens. And you may as well be happy leading up to that. And if it doesn't happen, well, you've just wasted a week worrying about something, and then it was fine. You could be enjoying that time.
Yeah, and getting over things fast is probably the best solution to most of our problems in the world. Being able to get over things quickly. I'm not saying sweep things under the rug, or you can have your feelings about things, but anyone that gets over a breakup or being on a bad TV show or a cancellation or a set that wasn't good, the faster you get over that, the better your life is. I recently had a set somewhere that I would give about a 6 out of 10. That's not good. At my point in my career, there should be no 6s. Okay. But at bare minimum, 6 is probably the worst I can do, where the audience will go home and go, "Yeah, that was all right." That's not good. But so I had about a 6 out of 10 set. And I actually, for a couple hours that night, was like, "I can't believe that. I shouldn't have said this to the crowd. I shouldn't have said that. Why did I say that to that guy? I could have had an 8 or a 9, and instead it was a 6. But by the next morning, I was headlining a club. I had to get back on stage and do great. And it was like a 9 or a 10 out of 10. And
but it's good that you processed that and you thought about what you did wrong so you could rectify it the next night, right?
Yes, that was good. But it was the best part of it was the fact that I had to perform the next night. You got to get back out there as quickly as possible. You got to dust off whatever the thing is that you're going through and get right back out there.
Michael Gelbart is our guest on What's So Funny, CFRO 100.5 FM and podcast. You mentioned your novel. How about a motivational book? Hey, listen to you talking here about how you should live your life. I'm thinking there's a self-help book in here somewhere.
I have an idea for the next book I'm writing will be a work of nonfiction. And as a single man, I've had many relationships, and my next book will be about how to have a certain kind of relationship that is very popular in our culture, and how to have that one as successfully as possible. Is my next book.
So, what kind of relationship is that?
I don't want to say yet.
Right,
it's a very popular kind of relationship. Mostly
one night stand.
It's not one night stand. It's not a one night stand. I've had some of those in my life. My longer relationships were some of the happier moments in my life.
How long was your longest?
I've had a multitude of 1-year relationships. I've had many 1-year relationships.
And what ends them?
Well, at a certain point in my life, when I thought I was the coolest guy of all time, what ended them was the fact that I just wasn't ready. I thought, I want to achieve all these big things, and this relationship isn't going to be the one I want to be in when those things happen. There were relationships, I will admit this, not that I'm living with any incredible amount of regret, but there were relationships in my early 20s that were they were great women, and at the time I just was not ready to be with one woman for the rest of my life. Now I am, and I just haven't met a woman that I want to do that with. But either I'm recreating the past or editing things out, but I think I had deeper relationships then. And I think sometimes I ended them for very minor reasons.
So mostly you were ending them.
Mostly, but yeah, I did this thing in my early 20s that I look back on, and I think, and when I'm friends with a lot of women, and when they describe this to me in their relationships, I'm like, I used to do that, and I understand psychologically why people do this. And this is a terrible thing to have done, but people will recognize this character trait, and I recognize it as a weakness that I had. Back then, when I'd have a serious when I first started, dating women, and it was very easy to walk away. You were really young, and you didn't care. You didn't need a serious relationship. You weren't looking for one. But then when you started having longer ones, and the feelings were different, the minute something would go wrong, or there was something I didn't like, I would say, you know what? I think we're done here. I think this relationship's over.
Just one thing.
One thing, but it seemed like a huge thing at the time. Yeah. It was probably not.
But it wasn't a buildup of other smaller
No,
things?
It was something that I just decided was not something I wanted in a relationship.
Right.
Now, because the relationship was bigger or deeper than the other ones, walking away was not going to happen without conversations. So the woman would ultimately cry or say, "Why? How could you possibly leave? We've said I love you. This is a big relationship." And I would hear that and go, well, they're right, obviously. And they're convincing me that this is obviously a bigger deal than I realized, this relationship, because they want to stay in it so much, and they're crying, and it's a big thing. I'm gonna stay in this relationship.
Give it a shot.
Give it a shot. Now, ultimately, here comes a pattern starts. An unhealthy pattern emerges where they stop you from breaking up with them. They convince you it's a great relationship. And now you subconsciously use that as a device when something goes wrong. So you're like, I don't feel comfortable with something. I'm unhappy again. I'll threaten to break up with them. And you don't think you're threatening to. You legitimately think that you want it over every time. They cry again. The insecure male or female, because I'm sure they do this too, will have that insecurity appeased. They will feel better. And they'll go, okay, I'll stay in this relationship. The problem is, the other person doesn't know that you're using the idea of breaking up as a way of having them reassure you how much you love them. They love you. They think they're actually being broken up with at that moment. So after 3 or 4 times, the other person finally says, okay, I'm not going to fight you on this anymore. You keep breaking up with me. I'll go.
And then what?
No, at first, because you don't think you're doing anything, But I realized later that I did this 2 or 3 times in serious relationships up until I was about 25 years of age. So you go, what? No, you don't go, what? You go, exactly. I've been trying to break up with you for a long time. This is what I want. I'm happy about it. Thank you for understanding. Then a couple weeks go by. And then you start to miss them. And you go, where's my please take me back? What happened? Mm-hmm. They always say, let's work this out. Where's the phone calls? Where's the let's work this out phone call? So then you call them and you go, you know what? I've been thinking about it and I really miss you. And I obviously made a tremendous mistake. And then they go, no, I'm over it now. Every single time you broke up with me, I was mentally preparing our inevitable full breakup.
Yeah, you started the ball rolling.
Yes. So that's when I realized, then you take some time alone, hopefully. You don't just fill your time with a bunch of new women to, forget. You take some time and go, what is it that I'm doing? What pattern am I creating in relationships that is the worst? And I realized the threat of breaking up is a device to make them reassure you is just about the worst thing you can do in the world.
Live and learn.
Yeah, that was the thing I did up until a certain point. And now I don't do that, and I don't find my relationships to be ones I want. And I know that I don't want the ones that I've had more recently. Plus, dating Los Angeles actresses is not always the best choice that you're going to make. But I do know that even when I have another serious relationship, there will be problems because human beings together, you got to work together. But I do realize that won't be one of them. The problem I had as a boy, that one's gone. I got that one covered. But there'll be a whole bunch of different ones.
And it's just you have to commit to try to make it work.
Exactly. Yeah. But my book will be about a certain kind of relationship that isn't that.
Okay.
I won't say anymore.
But you will be an expert in it.
I'm
Or will it be a
yes.
comedy book? Humor?
I intend to have humor in everything I do. If I write a movie that has poignant moments or the characters have to feel real if I write something. I have to believe they seem like real people. And then I want the comedy to come from that rather than just be a collection of jokes. It would be funny moments within a story or within personality types. And this book will have humor throughout. And I want to hopefully educate. I sound so pretentious. I want people to learn something or feel better about their life while watching me do something or hearing something I wrote or whatever the case may be. But I also I don't want them to be I don't want it to be hard hitting. I want people to have a good time while they're learning something and then go, wow, that was a lesson that I could have learned in a much more not fun way.
So because I'm just wondering, you're a single guy writing this book.
Yeah.
And granted, I don't know the relationship you're talking about.
Yeah.
But will people go, what does he know about
No,
relationship?
they'll definitely know that I am capable of understanding these. I've had more short relationships than long. So it will be about a certain kind of short relationship that millions of people have that go badly a lot of the time.
Right. And how to make them be even longer, or just how to make them good while they're in that short?
How to make them good while they're in the length, within the length of it, and how to respect each other, and that everyone, if the relationship does not go any further, how to make sure, to the best of my ability or their ability, that everyone is happy about it and not treated disrespectfully.
Are you friends with your exes?
I'm friends with pretty much all of them to a degree. Some I'm very close with. I'm still friends with some of the female friends of my exes. There's some because they got married and have babies now that there's not much use for me in their life anymore. But I'm not enemies with anyone.
Right. Well, that's good. And what about are your folks still alive?
My folks are still alive. My dad is 73. My mom is 68, and they're alive and doing great.
And are they pressuring you to meet somebody nice, settle down?
My mom and dad came to a show recently, and it was sold out. And I had an amazing set, lots of applause breaks, big laughs all the way through. And then we went out for dinner after the show, and my father said, this was shocking to me. He goes, listen, you just killed in there. We saw, he started naming famous people. We saw so-and-so at this theater, and they weren't as good as you. And my father's really critical, so it wasn't like he was going, so I saw this guy, and he wasn't as good, and this guy, and they're famous, and what is it that you're not doing? So I figured he'd say something like, you got to wake up every day and write new material. You got to hustle more. You're not on the phone enough. You're not taking enough. I figured it would be something like that. He goes, you need to get married. And I go, how after what you just saw is marriage the thing holding me back from career-related activities? And he said, well, if you have another person in your life who believes in you and loves you and supports you, that's what you need. And I do agree to a certain extent. And
that is because you'd get more material.
No, it was not. It was
material.
None of it was based on what I was doing on stage or how to achieve success during the day. It was all based on a kind of Rocky and Adrian type of, the person you're with helps motivate you every day. Now, I love that as a kind of a story, like a movie-esque kind of story. But the truth is, I know people who are not married who get to the top of their profession and people who are, and it's really going to be, my relationship choice will not be based on trying to achieve career success through marriage.
Probably not healthy.
No, it's probably not. It's probably not even true. You know.
Well, but it would be for some, and maybe for you, that's what you need.
Yeah, I honestly would. I would love to have a woman that believes in me, who I also believe in, and we can support each other in that way. But that's not holding me back from career-related activity. It's what I choose to do during the day. Almost any career, whether you see someone who's reasonably good on stage or amazing on stage, and sometimes the amazing guy won't do as well as the reasonably good guy, and it's based on what you're doing when you're not on stage. How much of your time is spent meeting people, writing, working. Work ethic is the most important thing.
Sounds like he just figured out a way to tell you, you should get married.
Yes.
How can I do it? If I tie it to his career, maybe he'll listen.
Yes,
to me.
if that's the only thing motivating him to get married, then I'll use that. But yeah, he would love me to get married and have grandkids, but I got an older brother with kids and a younger brother with kids. So that's covered.
Everyone's funny in the family?
Everyone's reasonably funny. My father is funny until he tries to be funny. When he's just being himself, he can be hysterical. He makes Swiss chalet waitresses laugh all the time. But when he gets on the phone with me and says, a Russian and a Chinaman, he doesn't talk like, he doesn't say Chinaman, but when I can tell he's about to launch into a joke, I'm like, you've seen what I do. That's not the kind of jokes that appeal to me at all.
Now, is he a dry cleaner?
Is
that the video that I saw? That was him?
Yeah, my father is, well, he's semi-retired now. He's moved on from dry cleaning. He opened a linen business. He started a linen business, and they do the dry cleaning solely for hotel chains and restaurant chains, tablecloths and things of that nature. But he, at one point, owned a few dry cleaning stores. And he would go home every night, and he had a karaoke machine, and he would sing karaoke. That was his hobby. He was actually a really good singer. When I was a kid and I'd be on the phone with a girl in high school, he'd be singing in the background. It would be humiliating. So then when I got a comedy career and people were interested in interviewing me on TV or in the newspaper, I don't have to name places that people get interviewed, but that makes no sense. But
podcasts?
Yeah. People at home are like, I hope he mentions where interviews take place, because I'm really confused by this word interview. But so he'd go home and he'd sing, and he had never sung live anywhere. So I decided when I was headlining a comedy club one time that I would send out a press release to the local media that my father would be making his live singing debut. So sure enough, someone took the bait, and they said, we've done interviews with you in the past. We'll do one with you and your dad, and we'll have his singing debut on television. So I said, hot dog, that'd be great. So I said, Dad, this is not a karaoke place. This is a comedy club. So you're going to have to memorize the lyrics to something. So he memorized the song, and they sent the reporter out, and my father was interviewed the day of his first time singing, and he sang Till There Was You.
Yes.
Yeah, and it was kind of touching. I thought he did a good job. He has not sung live since then, but it was a really great father-son moment, and people came up to me afterwards, and they were really, they found it kind of moving, you know. But it airs. They air the story on the local news, and my dad called me up after they aired it, and he said, "I'm not in it enough." And I go, "What do you mean?" He goes, "They focused a lot more on you than they did me. I'm not in this that much." I'm like, Dad, you know that I'm in show business and you're not, right? Like, you do know that the reason you were covered for your singing debut is because you're my father. So they had to mention me at some point. But yeah, I love the fact that, he sang one time live. It made the news, but he wasn't in it enough.
Quit at the top.
Yeah, and he never sang again.
So it sounds like he went to, or he goes to, a lot of other comedians. Like, growing up, were you guys listening to a lot of comedy? When
I was 6, he took me to see The Jerk, which a 6-year-old shouldn't see. It's an R-rated movie. But I saw The Jerk, and I'm like, I want to do what this guy is doing for a living. I want to be funny. I want to be a funny grown-up. So then he saw I like Steve Martin, so he bought me one of his. He bought me an album. He bought me a Steve Martin album, and I was too young to really understand the jokes, but it was a grown-up acting wacky,
Yeah.
and that appealed to me. And he bought me a paperback version of the book Cruel Shoes, and again, I didn't get a single thing. I didn't understand any of it. I was like 7 or 8 years old now, and I had a copy of Cruel Shoes. I didn't understand it, but I loved the fact that he bought me these things because he's like, my son loves this thing, so I'm going to go out and get him the things. And yeah, I didn't understand any of it, but I loved it.
Yeah, I can see Steve Martin being an influence on you.
You mean to this day? Is there any shades of Steve Martin?
Just in the silliness aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was also thinking a little vocally like Norm Macdonald.
I spent 2 years opening for Norm Macdonald, and it might have rubbed off a little bit. And you end up sounding a little like comedians that you like.
Yeah.
Like no one ever, hopefully nobody goes, oh my God, I hate that guy's act. You'd have to be really self-loathing to hate someone's act and still end up sounding like them. But yeah, I think things rub off on you. That's why when I have an opening act and they, I notice throughout the weekend they start sounding more like me, or they do more crowd work than they did before. Or they use verbiage that I used the night before and using words they didn't say before. And it's supposed to be flattering. For me, it's like, I have to get on stage after you and sound like me, but you just sounded like me.
I think that's a human thing.
It is a human thing.
I know friends that sound like their friends.
Yes.
They all start talking the same way.
Yeah, and a little of it's going to rub off. You have to remain conscious of the fact and be uniquely you. But if you think someone's great, you're going to sound just a little like them.
I was thinking that maybe because you both were Anglophones, raised in a French city, Norm in Quebec City, and you in Montreal, and maybe that was
no. I think it was just the fact that I liked him, like I liked what he did. Because when I was on amateur nights as a kid, and I was still in 12th grade or grade 12.
Grade 12, as we say here in Canada.
But sometimes I throw grade 12 in the 12th grade in there. But
my listeners won't understand what you're saying.
Oh, the number 12 can be used as 12th grade or grade 12, and it can also be
cardinal.
It also can be used as a dozen if you're buying a product that comes in 12s.
But you wouldn't, correct me if I'm wrong, you wouldn't say dozen grades.
I say grade a dozen.
Grade a dozen.
Yes, that's the thing. I have always said grade a dozen, and I've been corrected all my life. They think I'm a moron.
But when you were in a grade a dozen.
When I was in grade a dozen, and I was 17 and on amateur night, Norm Macdonald does not have a driver's license. And he was like the top comedian in Canada at the time. Everyone thought he was going to be huge. He was going to go to the U.S. and be a big star. Everyone believed that. They were correct. Most of the time, people are incorrect about the people they declare, watch this guy, he's going to be the guy. And then they're not the guy. It's no fault of their own. It's very hard to end up being the guy. But Norm was that guy. When I was in high school, everyone was like, this guy's going to be big. And Norm had no driver's license, but he had gigs to go to. So he had a copy of the amateurs list, and he called, I guess, some amateur comedians to find a ride to a show. So here I am at home on a Tuesday studying, I suppose. And then I get a call, and it's like, hey, this is Norm Macdonald. I'm like, yes? And he's like, hey, I got this gig at like Wally Magoo's in Bracebridge or some terrible thing. And he's like, I can give you some gas money and you can do like 5 minutes. And I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I have like a math test tomorrow. I can't do it. But I was like, oh my God, Norm Macdonald called me.
And I turned him down.
And I had to turn him down. Well, yeah. And then years later, now I'm a fully grown man and I live in Los Angeles and I'm performing at the Improv on Melrose. And Norm's on the show too. And the executive producer of his last sitcom is with him, right? His name's Laurie Jo Hoekstra. And they watch my set, and I did my signature crowd work and jokes combo, and it was very effective. And
like 8 or 9 out of 10?
This was I think it was an 8 or maybe a 10. It was a great set, and it was full of looseness and things that were said on stage that people don't normally say. So they really enjoyed that.
Did you know he was in the audience?
I knew he was there.
Okay.
But I didn't know he'd be watching. A lot of the times a famous guy at the show does their spot and leaves. But I think Norm genuinely loves comedy. So he watched my set, and
he remembered you?
No.
Oh, okay.
They both came up to me, and they told me it was great, and I was really happy about it. And they said, Norm has a pilot that he's doing for Comedy Central, which will be a sketch show, sort of like Chappelle's show. He's doing a one-time special, and maybe you want to come write on it. So I said, wow, this is my second favorite comedian of all time.
When was this?
This was in 2005, maybe.
Okay. Did that show ever make it to the air?
They aired the special. They still air it from time to time. I don't know. It didn't become a weekly thing. I don't know if they ever intended on it being, but they aired it. So I went for lunch with them, and they told me about the show. I submitted some sketch ideas, but I just thought it was the coolest thing ever. But it didn't end up being a job for me. But a year later, I heard from Norm, and he offered me a chance to be his feature act. And I did that for like 2 straight years. And I haven't talked to him in a couple of years now, but because I'm sure he's got other feature acts now. But
Josh,
it was one of Josh is definitely Josh is killing. But so for a couple of years, I was watching every night. I was watching Norm Macdonald for like an hour and 15 minutes. So if there's anything vocally that I took from that, I will try and exercise it from my act, because I don't want to sound like other people.
Well, you don't, and I had to really think, because, and it just hints of it. It's nothing where you go, man, that guy sounds like Norm Macdonald.
Yeah, there's always going to be...
and there's just, a word here or there, or a phrase.
Yeah, there's always going to be hints of that. If you really like someone's comedic style, you might end up sounding maybe, hopefully, no more than 2% like somebody,
2%.
2%
You
would
like
be...
numbers.
Numbers are the best. My God, I subscribed to Numbers magazine. Last month, the centerfold was 6. It was so good.
What's your favorite number?
Well, when I was a kid, every time there'd be something where you had to pick a number in class, and the winner got the prize if they guessed, and I'd always say 4, and I'd win. I won a lot of times.
Oh.
So 4 has been a big number in my life. Recently, 7 it's kind of unoriginal, but 7's been good.
Today's Friday the 13th. How do you feel about that?
I feel amazing about it.
Yeah.
This is going to be the best Friday the 13th of my life.
Hey, so growing up in Montreal, I would imagine that, whenever I watch Just for Laughs, a lot of Montreal comics. John Bueller, a local, very funny Vancouver comic, went to live out in Montreal 1 year, I think, and he got a gala at the festival just from living in Montreal. I go, there's lots of guys outside of Montreal, so you must get that every year.
I must get the show?
You must be on Just for Laughs. You're on their radar. They know you.
We already. I'm gonna reveal behind the curtain. I already told you I've never done Just for Laughs.
But when you said that did surprise me.
Yeah,
I was thinking of asking you that about the Montreal connection. Now you started in Toronto, so that's a little different. But still, you're around it.
There's nothing good about not having done the Just for Laughs festival. Nothing, right? It's a great festival. Everyone wants to do it. They want to check that off their list as something they have done, or they want to be part of that system where they're offered tons of stuff from Just for Laughs. They want to use it to elevate their career, or just for the fun of having done it once. So there's nothing negative about doing it. It's all positives. The only thing I can think of or made up in my head that is a positive about not having done it, because you have to find one, is that I'm the only guy who's done like U.S. late night talk shows who has not been at Just for Laughs.
The only Canadian.
Yeah, the only Canadian.
Yeah.
And once I do it, I can't say that anymore. That will be something. And when I tell people, sometimes an MC will go, this guy's done like 5 galas at Just for Laughs, please welcome. And it's not true. I've done no galas. They just assume, based on other things I've done in my career, that I had to have done a few galas or at least done Just for Laughs. So the surprise that people have when they hear that I haven't done it has a value. And the fact is that I've done some good things in the U.S. too, that usually you don't get unless you've done Just for Laughs, has a value also. And if I ever do Just for Laughs, the value in that sentence is gone. And then I'm just a guy who did Just for Laughs.
So when they come call in, you're going to have to turn them down.
I will accept their. I will accept. I would love them to offer it to me. It doesn't look rooted in reality at this point. I've been written about in the paper. They go, here's some people who should have done Just for Laughs that never did, and it was in print. I was happy about that. But
do they not like you, or are you just not on their radar?
I don't know.
Have you tried to submit?
Yeah, well, they saw me last
is?
year. They saw me last year in Calgary, in front of 12 people on a Wednesday.
That's a good indication
of how they feel about me.
No,
yeah.
of your ability.
Oh yeah, that's a good indication of my ability and how they feel about me, though. But it was 12 people on a Wednesday, and I was last on a list of 15 people to perform, also in front of those 12 people. And I was told by the person who made the list, and I flew in specially because I was headlining Calgary like Thursday to Sunday, so I flew in a day early to do the thing, and I asked the person who put the list together why I'm going last out of 15, and she goes, "Well, because you're headlining for the week, so I think it's just you want to headline for the showcase." And I'm like, that's not the same at all.
Yeah.
But no, I thought I did well that night, and as well as you can do in front of 12 people. But if, I want anyone who books I hope they have a continued success, and I hope I have continued success independently of them, and they continue to have success independently of me, It's fine.
There's that positive thinking.
I did Winnipeg this year. I did a gala in Winnipeg, and they had me close the gala, and they had me close the Best of the Fest show. So that's something. I love the Winnipeg people, and I love the Just for Laughs people. They're good people.
You picked sides. You went with Winnipeg.
I didn't.
You could never do Montreal.
I went with the one that asked me, and if this ends up being a thing I never do in my life, it'll still hopefully have a lot of wins in it.
How's your time? It is 12:26.
I guess I haven't. Oh, I got text messages and calls. Oh, okay, hold on. I'll just text them back. He's called twice also. Let's see what the voicemail says. Call voicemail.
I asked why.
Leave all this in. Let's see what happens. I didn't get a text back. I guess I'm fine. All right, I'll just talk about the book quickly.
Okay, so the other Oprahs.
All right, how that book came to be was...
The novel.
The novel. I was performing with a comedian named Greg Behrendt who wrote He's Just Not That Into You.
Yeah.
And he had done late night talk shows and he had a certain level of career, but then the book came out. And suddenly his career, it went through the roof, and we were playing a club. We were playing at the Irvine Improv, and it was sold out every show. Women had books with them in the crowd for him to sign. And I said, how did this all come to be, whether you reached a huge new level in your career? And he said, I was on Oprah twice. Oprah said that every woman in America needs to read this book, and it completely changed everything. And that's when I thought to myself, that would be terrible if your name was Oprah, but you weren't Oprah Winfrey. So, because no matter how great what you do is, the minute they hear your first name, it's over. They're comparing you to someone else. They're making fun of your name. No matter what you accomplish, you're never going to be the best Oprah. And I thought I could either do that as like a little joke in my act, get a minor laugh for it, or do something bigger with it. I thought it would make a good idea to incorporate some of my own dating stories, to incorporate my beliefs about the world, maybe to inspire a few people who read it. So I created 4 women who are not Oprah Winfrey, who are all named Oprah, the struggles that they go through, the friendship that they form online when they find each other because of the same first name. And they kind of help each other with their friendship and with their problems and things like that. And that was the way I came up with the book.
Are there other people named Oprah in real life?
There's going to be more every year.
Oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah, but I've never met one. I'm sure there's dozens of them in the world now. But if after, let's say, chapter 4, if you're not invested in the stories, the personal stories of these characters, I failed as a storyteller, because the fact that they're named Oprah is a hook that leads you into stories that are relatable to all of us, basically.
And was that your first attempt at writing fiction?
I've written on a lot of TV shows, mostly tween sitcoms, stuff for Teen Nick, Nickelodeon. It all ends up airing on the Family Channel in Canada. I've written animated series. I wrote a Lifetime movie that I starred in, but when I wrote it, I thought it was a Disney Channel movie. It ended up on Lifetime, which is odd because I played my character as if it was going to be a Disney Channel character. I played an over-the-top villain that you'd see in a Home Alone movie. But now, because it airs on Lifetime, 50-year-old women are going, why the hell's this in the movie? So,
is that the one with George Hamilton?
Yeah, that's the one with George Hamilton.
What was he like?
He was great. Yeah, I know I seem like the most positive person in the world. I would not tell...
I'm just looking for dirt.
There's one or two celebrities in the world I don't like. Yeah.
And you would never say.
No, I wouldn't say. I would not say who they are. There's one or two that I'm not.
You mean on a personal level?
Yeah, on a personal level, there's like one celebrity. I'm like, I don't like that. This guy did something that I didn't like at all.
Yeah, and it shapes how you see them professionally too, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does. God damn it. But I don't hate them. I just don't like them that much. The book is available at theotheroprahs.com. I don't want to plug stuff.
No, go ahead. Yeah.
Theotheroprahs.com, and I'll send you a signed copy of the book. Or if you go to michaelgelbart.com, you can buy the CD, Hello Comedy Lovers, or the book, or both, for that matter. They're great. They really are.
They are.
Or terrible. I don't want to oversell it.
No, but you must get some reaction from people that you believe isn't just kissing ass, that is honest.
Yeah. People have written about the book and given it good reviews, and people have written me to tell me how much the book made them feel good, and they loved it. And will there be another book? Will it be a movie? Will it be a TV show? And I've had pitch meetings about it becoming a series, and who knows? Hopefully it will. Yeah. I believe it should. I believe it should be a bigger... part of mass media than just the book.
Well, I look forward to reading it.
Well, I hope you like it.
The first page was really good.
It's the best first page in first page history. And it's the fifth best second page in second page history.
Really?
Yeah, and I don't know, this bit's not the best ever, but you try things and you hope it works, you know?
Yes, you do. All right, Michael Gelbart, thanks a lot. Was there anything we missed?
Well, we got to pronounce Gelbart correctly.
What did I say?
You said Gelbart, but it doesn't. It doesn't matter.
Run the tape back.
All right, I can't do that right now, but I
Gelbart.
will. It doesn't. I should have gone with a shorter last name because sometimes people can't spell it, and if they can't spell it, they're going to give up on learning more about you. You know.
Well, Gelbart, there's Larry Gelbart.
Hey. He's going to be here in 5 minutes.
Oh, sweet.
He had to run an errand. I left someone outside waiting for me during this podcast. They were supposed to meet me outside and we're going to have lunch. And I left them. They stayed outside for so long that they decided to go run an errand and come back.
Oh, is that it?
That's how bad it's... Yeah, that's how long this is.
Yeah, you changed bad to long.
That's right. Like, never mind.
You had a good time?
Here?
Yeah.
This was one of the best podcasts of all time, I think. I hope I was a good guest, you know.
You were a great guest.
Sometimes a comedian gets scared of not being funny, like not on stage, but in real life you hear about, oh, that guy's always on. People go, that guy's always on, and it's really a negative thing. So I try and conduct myself off stage like a fully formed human being.
It's funny sometimes.
It's funny sometimes, and sometimes I'm just a guy speaking.
Yeah, well, you listened to the Norm Macdonald episode. It wasn't gut-bustingly funny. It was very serious.
Okay. I'll have to listen to that because I still remain a fan, even though you work with someone for a couple of years, and it was sort of like being in the movie Almost Famous, where you get to you hang out with one of your heroes, and you get to see what it's like. And but I still listen to his stuff. I still remain the same level of fan.
Hey, before we go, how were you raised religious?
No, there's virtually no religion in my family. Like, I was born Jewish, but I haven't celebrated a Jewish holiday in quite some time.
Yeah, it was because I was thinking, when you think of great Jewish comedians, they're usually American. And in Canada, we don't have that history. There's a few, but it's not like in the States.
I think the reason being, get ready for this. I should edit out my thought on this, but I'm going to say it anyway.
Yeah, say it.
In America, there's been a long-standing belief that show business can pay well. And in Canada, show business doesn't pay as well. And I think American Jewish people gravitated to American show business, and Canadian Jews did not gravitate to Canadian show business. I'm not making any...
Yeah, you probably should have edited that out.
Really? Will
But
you
I'm
edit
gonna
that
leave
out
it
for
in.
me?
No, I'm going to keep it.
It's a fact that there are more American Jews in show business than Canadian Jews. Why is that? I don't know.
Send your letters to michaelgelbart.com.
Gelbart.
Gelbart.
I want the thing about Jews edited out of the show. I think it's bad. It is bad, right?
No, it isn't.
I want it out.
It's
I love Jews. I might marry one, but I might not.
Mm-hmm.
We'll have to see who comes along. But I think that the Jews are the best. No, I got nothing on this subject.
Michael Gelbart, thank you. Good luck with your relationships and your career.
And what else?
That's it.
Thank you, and good luck with your relationship and your career.
Anything else?
You're a good guy. I'm glad you did this. I'm glad we both did. Thank you, everyone, and visit my website and enjoy your lives.
He's a good guy, isn't he? Michael Gelbart. Got the pronunciation Gelbart, not Gelbart. Michael Gelbart. I enjoyed our talk. Hope you enjoyed it. One of these days when I do a remote interview, I'm going to have it, I can dream, a situation one day where we have both mics working at the same capacity. Oh, fingers crossed. Maybe next week when we have another Canadian Jew in show business, filmmaker, documentarian Alan Zweig. Maybe you've seen Vinyl, or I Curmudgeon, Lovable, 15 Reasons to Live, or his latest, When Jews Were Funny. Next Sunday night. Good night.